You're listening to Inside Carolina Live here as we get the season started. Tommy, it's we've got 1 hour of the show in the can. Just an amazing day here in Charlotte. 1200 South Graham. If you're looking to come hang out before the game, man, this is a heck of an environment. We've done this before, but the Frothy Beard has really brought their A game today. Um, Tommy, listen, we've got what I want to call a new segment. This guy has just retired from a very, very strong NFL career. And I know it's a guy that Tar Heel fans, IC subscribers, basically anybody that's got a light blue pulse wants to hear from him. Mr. Gio Bernard is joining us now, and what will be a couple of reoccurrences this year in a seg. I want to call punt to Gio. And so,
Ooh,
Gio, first
that's
off, man,
good.
how you doing, buddy?
I am great, man. I am great. I'm excited to obviously join you guys. I think it's something that I've been, eyeing or keeping my eye on for quite some time, and just wanted to give back to UNC. I know the great times that I've had there. It's kind of been. It feels like it's been a really long time, but I'm able to come back and hopefully encourage some other people to do some great things, and talk some shop, talk some football, and kind of enjoy my downtime now.
Well, so tell us what have you been doing since you decided to finally hang up the spikes, man? What's Gio's life looking like if you can put that in a concise answer for us?
Yeah, a lot of beach hanging out, I should say. I'll keep it PG. Yeah, just been hanging out at the beach with my family. I have a 20-month-old, so he's slowly growing up into a little beach bum, and we're just really enjoying being down here in South Florida. Obviously, the heat has been something else, but it's going to start to cool up here soon. So excited for the fall down here in South Florida with my family. And obviously, I got business stuff on the side, but yeah, excited to watch some TV and excited to watch some football games from the couch. That'll be a really good time. Because I just remember if I was watching TV or if I was watching football games from the couch, that means I was either hurt and I wasn't at the game or something bad happened. So now I'm retired, and now I'll be able to do it and not feel any type of animosity towards it. So it should be fun.
Let me ask you a question, Gio, and it's pretty awesome that you joined us. One thing that I think folks don't realize as much is that even college football is basically a job. These guys,
Hmm.
especially at Carolina these days, are practicing first thing in the morning. They get up, they have a team meeting at 5:30 a.m. They have practice, and then they do their class stuff, and then they go back for camp. What is that like, getting in that groove, both as a college player and then in the professional ranks of football that we find as a game is a
Hmm.
job for you guys?
For sure. And I think that's where I will say some athletes, some student athletes, when they get to that next level, it kind of hinders them a little bit, because when you're in college, you have your counselors that are there telling you, hey, make sure you show up for class, or hey, you got to do this, hey, make sure you do that. You have all types of people behind you saying, hey, make sure you show up on time for this and that. When you make that transition to the NFL, there's nobody saying that. They just take their money back pretty much, right? So they were going to say, hey, we'll fine you, 5 grand for missing, the first 15 minutes of a meeting. Like in college, it's, hey, you're going to go outside and you might do, some suicides or whatever, and that's about it. If anything, like that's kind of getting you better because you're getting in shape while you're doing it, while you're getting in trouble. So when you make that transition, it's obviously a little bit different, but it 100% is a job. And I think the earlier you can realize that in your career, in your playing career, whether that's even in high school, like our high school down here in South Florida, St. Thomas, they ran it like a college program, right? So I was used to that when I went into the college world, and once I made the transition to the NFL, it was nothing new to me. So the earlier you get on to that program mindset, I think everything else just kind of falls in line, and it just becomes second nature at that point.
Gio, and I'm going to ask you to kind of go in your wayback machine for a little bit for us. What is prepping for a season opener like? Because again, you go from spring ball, summer conditioning, fall camp, and then that fall camp switches into game week prep real quick. What do you remember about prepping for a season opener, and what are some of these guys feeling right now?
Yeah, I think it's There's always this thing that everybody says is called live bullets. It's live now, that whole thing, right? So, it's almost a bit of excitement too because you go from hitting your own players, hitting your own teammates all day, every day, and it gets redundant after a while. To hey, we're going up against somebody else, right? That to me is where the fun happens, right? Like when you're playing against your buddies, like yeah, you beat them on a long route or whatever, and you go have lunch with them, 20, an hour or so later, right? But this is something completely different, right? This is full on competition. This is where you have to put good stuff on film. So that's where the change happens, is when you go from beating up on your own guys to beating up on the other team, right? And for me, that I really enjoyed that. I got tired of going up against my own guys. Like he knows what route I'm running. I know he knows that I'm about to break out or whatever. So there's a little bit of a chess match that happens when you do go up against somebody else, and that's where the fun happens.
We're talking to Gio Bernard, North Carolina legend, segment that Joey has entitled "Punt to Gio." I'm not going to ask you about that particular play, but I do want to ask you about what it's like, and is there a difference, whether folks admit it or not, playing in prime time, playing in a big game in front of a nationally televised audience? A little different in the pros where all you guys are televised and nationally and all that. But in college, could you feel a difference in a game? Like if you were in a game like this, season opener against a rival, national television, as a player and as a team, could you tell a difference in the mindset maybe going into it? I know every game's the same and all that, but realistically, it's a big game for North Carolina tonight here. As a player that was in it, could you feel that?
100%. Yeah, I think part of it too was my family gets to watch the game. I think that was the really cool part about playing on national TV. My family didn't travel all that much, so when they didn't really have to try to go to a sports bar or something to try to find a North Carolina game, it was they could just turn their TV on ESPN and hey, there we are. So there was always that excitement. There was always the butterflies that all comes, and I feel like if you don't have those feelings, if you don't have those butterflies, I don't know, maybe that's just me. Like I felt like I wasn't ready, but whether it was week 1, week 2, week 3, later on in the year, whatever it may be, I always had butterflies, but there's a little bit extra juice when it was televised because my family can watch, and that was always a fun experience, I should say.
So, Gio, let's talk about this specific squad, man. I mean, they are absolutely just loaded at running back, at least from a standpoint of looking at bodies that they have back there. And I think
Mhm.
the room is talented, right? Like it's a legitimate 5 or 6 deep. It's a talented room, but it's not a very experienced room. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think that's the thing is I've been hearing everybody talking about, hey, one guy needs to step up. One guy needs to show that he's the dominant force. That hey, he's going to be the guy that's there on 3rd and 1 or whatever it may be. He's the guy that that they're going to count on for the season. But I think when you have a room full of playmakers like UNC does right now, it just ups everybody else's game, right? I mean, you want to be able to have a room full of guys that are able to take that load, that are able to do that. And then, if one guy goes down, like what happened last year, another guy can step up and, your offense doesn't, hinder whatsoever. So having a room full of playmakers like that is huge in any position, right? Like you want that depth. And I think that was something that I've learned throughout my years is it doesn't matter. I will take it back. It does matter if you have that 1 or 2 guys that you can count on. But I think the depth of the team, the depth of each position is almost just as important as having the one guy, right? You want to be able, because that one guy, things can happen, right? We've seen it year in and year out. That one guy gets hurt, somebody has to step up, right? So I think having a really good depth in every position, and as we're talking about running backs right now, that's huge. And we all know the physicality of that position, right? So it's just a matter of the next guy stepping up if something happens. But right now, guys are healthy, guys are competing, and that's what you want coming out of fall camp. You want your guys to be healthy, which they are, and They've competed. They're pushing each other, and it's up to the coaches at this point to see really how they want to go about their season and how they really want to line up. So,
as a guy that played the position and played it pretty well, how important is it to get lathered up during a game, to get in a rhythm versus maybe getting 5 plays on, 5 plays off? And that's the challenge with North Carolina's running back room. Last season, a guy would step up, have a good game, good 2 games maybe, get hurt, go out. Somebody else had to step up. Not until Elijah Green was able to play 5 or 6 games straight did somebody get in that rhythm. How important is that for a running back?
Yeah, because my whole career, minus in Chapel Hill, I was always the 1-2 kind of guy, right? So I never there. Yes, there is a point of emphasis on getting into a groove, but I think it's up to that player when they come into the game, making their presence known. I remember my coach telling me this. He said, whenever you come into the game, no matter if it's first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, whatever, right? You have to make your presence known. So for me, that looked like, okay, I'm going to get the ball. I could probably make a move and try to make this guy miss, or I can try to run through him and let him know this is somebody else in the game, right? So there's that dominance factor that has to happen when you do come into the game. And for me, I was never okay, I'm going to play first, second, third down. I could if they needed me to do that, but that's just not how my career kind of shaped out. I was always the guy, okay, hey, put Gio in for this play. Hey, let's put him in. Let's get him to do this. Let's get him to do that. So I never fell into the trap of, hey, I need to get into a groove to, lather up or to feel right. As soon as my name was called, like, I had to be ready, because all those other guys, they've already been in the game for X amount of plays. They've already got those jitters out, and this was my first go, right? This was my first crack at the bat. So it was for me, it was always like making myself known, making everybody know, hey, Giovani Bernard's on the field at this time. Like, we have to keep our eyes open because he's going to do something different, right? So I never really relied on the I got to get lathered up, right? Hey, I gotta warm up. I need 4, 5, 6, 7 carries before I get going. I just had to make it known.
So,
and I hope that answers your question.
Oh, absolutely. Because I think folks don't realize that, hey, you might get 1 or 2 carries in the game if you're on North Carolina's depth chart. You got to make them count, or they're not going to use you again.
Exactly. Make them count.
Gio, let's ask this. I mean, I want to pull this thread a little bit further. If you're in a game like this, season opener, marquee opponent, pseudo regional rivalry game on a neutral site, national television, what does Gio want called for him to get warmed up? What's something you want called in a situation like this where you feel like, all right, this is something I can make that impact that you're talking about?
For sure. I think it's just a downhill play, right? Like as much as everybody always thought that, I enjoyed running, that I was like the speed guy, or get him outside of the box, give him a toss play. Like, I hated those plays because as I'm running fast to the sideline, everybody's running fast to the sideline, right? But if you're able to run just straight downhill, like an ISO play or whatever it may be, you're able just to match up. This is like almost like a 3rd and 1 type of play. I love those plays because it's just you versus that other person, right? It's a bunch of mini battles happening, and it's just downhill. That's what you want, for me at least, as a running back. I just want to go downhill, and it's me versus this linebacker, this unblocked linebacker, or whoever it may be, a safety coming down into the box. And again, make my presence known. I'm not going to try to shake you on 3rd and 1. I'm trying to run through you, right? So, but if you run a toss play, it's like, oh, geez, I just have to run as fast as I humanly possibly can. And let me just see if I can get this 1 yard and die for it. I don't know. But yeah, I've always been that type of guy. Like, listen, like when there's big situations and there's moments that you need to make yourself known and you need to make your presence known, let's just run straight at these guys, right? There's a lot of coaches now. I get the whole, the spread, like that's evolved into something completely else, different now. But sometimes it's the old-fashioned, hey, let's just line up and get after them, right? Like you look at the Eagles last year during the Super Bowl, right? That quarterback sneak. That's the one of the most basic plays in all of football. But they got 4th and 1, 3rd and 1, however many times, and it's a downhill smash mouth you versus me type of play, and that's all. That's
It's a rugby scrum, really.
Exactly, right. So it makes it very simple. There's not much, game planning into something like that, but something like that can be very effective, as we saw in the Super Bowl last year. But,
Yeah, and I don't know if that play is stoppable. I mean, I don't know how
no,
you stop that
it's
play.
not. It's so tough. So, yeah, maybe I don't know if they want to do that, but
Well, Carolina certainly has the guys in Amari and Hampton, British Brooks that can just go straight at people.
exactly.
And everybody talks about the state game with you, but for me, one of the plays that sticks out is the Virginia Tech 4th and 1 when y'all were stormtroopered out in Kenan Stadium.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly the play call, but you basically went off tackle.
That's exactly the play. Like the exact envision I have of, hey, we need this. It's 3rd and 1. All right, bring Gio in. Everybody's thinking it's going to be a pass, and then it's like a 3rd and 2 play, and then we just run like a dive, right? Like that. That is something that other coaches may overthink it, but it's something so simple, right? Just give this guy an opportunity and let him go downhill. Let him get his shoulders in front of his feet, and let him just lean into the line and get the 1 or 2 yards. Yeah, like 100%.
60 yards later, let everybody figure out what happened afterwards. Talking with Gio Bernard, he's joining us, and he's going to be with us a couple of other times later this season. Gio, I want to ask you before we get out of here, how do you feel like this game tonight's going to go?
Yeah, I think it's just it's going to start early, and I think you talk to a lot of OCs and a lot of head coaches. They want to jump out. They want to get out early. They want to be able to apply that pressure to the other team. And I think that has to start. You have to start the game fast. You have to be able to put that pressure on the other team. And I think it's by passing, by this, by that. But I think just running the ball, getting control of the line of scrimmage is going to be the biggest thing, right? I don't know if this is just because I'm a running back, but O-line versus D-line, that's always the biggest major battle in football. Those trenches is the major focal point when it comes to winning and losing football games. And if UNC can assert that dominance in their line of scrimmage, I think everything else just kind of falls in the line. Obviously, giving time for Drake to be able to throw the ball, giving the running back space, all that kind of stuff. And even on the defensive side, being able to stop those guys on the other team, right? So it's definitely going to start up front, and it's just a matter of being able to assert their dominance on the line of scrimmage and to get that push.
Well, Tommy, I decided to name the segment "Punt to Gio." You know why? Because if you punt to Gio, good things are going to happen. And as we saw today at our first edition of this segment, we punted it to the man. Great things happened. We'll bring him back a little bit later this season. Gio Bernard, we appreciate you joining us today on Inside Carolina Live. Enjoy watching the game tonight with your family, and we'll catch up with you very soon.
Thank you, man. I'm excited to be able to watch a bunch of more UNC games. I know a lot of times I was too busy, caught up in my own game planning, but now it's going to be a fun little fall, I should say.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate you taking the time to join us. And, it might be called Punt to Gio, but it sounds like it needs to be just run the damn ball.
Either way, we'll workshop that as we talk to Gio a couple more times this season. We'll be right back on Inside Carolina Live with Jason Staples coming up next.